Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring something many find really powerful, using a journal for prayer and devotion.
hmm
We've been looking into how having, a dedicated journal can seriously enrich your spiritual life. And for you, someone who likes getting up to speed quickly but thoroughly, we're aiming to break down the core ideas and practical ways to do this.
Right, without making it feel overwhelming.
Exactly.
And we'll be drawing on various insights, including how, specific design choices in journals can really boost the experience. We've definitely seen that with thoughtfully made notebooks, like those from Lestalion. Their features often seem tailor-made for this kind of intentional reflection.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive, it's really to pull out the key benefits and practical strategies for using a prayer and devotion journal. We want to highlight those features that make it more than just writing, making it effective and, genuinely meaningful for your spiritual path.
Okay.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Why is this idea of a dedicated space, like a specific journal, so important for prayer and devotion?
Well, the core idea really is that a dedicated journal helps cultivate a sense of the sacred. By having one notebook just for this, you're essentially creating a physical space. And a mental one, too, set apart for reflecting, for prayers, for catching those insights. This intentional separation, it really helps focus your mind and signals, that this practice matters in your life.
So it's more than just scribbling thoughts on any old notepad, isn't it?
Definitely.
When we look at journals actually designed for this, like the Lestalion ones we've looked at, you see that emphasis on, say, paper quality or a durable cover. These aren't just for looks, are they?
Not at all. Think about it when you hold a journal that feels, substantial, something that's actually a pleasure to write in.
Yeah.
It subtly reinforces your commitment. It suggests your thoughts, your prayers, they're worth recording properly in a lasting way. The premium feel you often get with Lestalion, for instance, it can really add to that sense of importance and maybe encourage you to stick with it more.
That makes a lot of sense, like having the right gear for any job. Now, let's be honest, starting any regular spiritual practice can be tough.
Oh, absolutely.
Many of us, and I include myself here, have struggled with just being consistent. What are some common roadblocks people hit with prayer journaling, and what actually works to get past them?
Yeah, it's very common. The discipline challenge, sometimes just not knowing what to write, and of course, busy schedules just getting in the way. One really effective approach is to bring in some structure.
Structure, okay.
Yeah, maybe using prompts or following a devotional guide, or even just creating your own simple system for your entries.
And it sounds like the journal itself can actually help with that structure.
It can.
Features like numbered pages, maybe a back pocket like we see in some Lestalion designs, they seem pretty practical. How to help organize things.
Oh, those features are incredibly useful for building that consistency and order.
Yeah.
Numbered pages mean you can easily find past entries. Maybe you remember praying about something specific or a reflection you had.
Right, you can flip back.
Exactly. You can locate it quickly. And that back pocket,
Yeah.
super handy for keeping related bits and pieces together, sermon notes, maybe a scripture card you're reflecting on, prayer requests people gave you.
That's a really practical angle. It actually reminds me of a colleague, Mark. He always felt his prayer life was just scattered. Thoughts would pop up, things he wanted to pray about, but then poof, gone.
Yeah, happens to us all.
He started using a journal with numbered pages, and he told me it was like creating an index for his spiritual life. He could see patterns, track how prayers for certain situations evolved. Game changer for him.
That's a perfect example, how a simple feature brings more order, more intention. And speaking of intention, having some sort of framework for what to put in the journal can also be, hugely helpful.
Yeah.
The stuff we've reviewed often suggests key sections people find useful.
Yes, things like confession space, to be honest about shortcomings, seek forgiveness, adoration, focusing on praise, gratitude, intercession, praying for others, scripture reflections, digging into verses, and answered prayers. That last one feels really important.
It's so powerful for building faith, isn't it? Recognizing those moments.
Exactly.
These sections give you a kind of scaffold. They encourage a more, well-rounded engagement through your journaling. And again, a feature we've seen in Lestalion journals, that built-in table of contents becomes super valuable here.
Oh, right.
It lets you easily jump between these different parts of your prayer life and crucially see how they connect over time. It turns the journal from just a collection of thoughts into like a coherent story of your spiritual growth.
It's about seeing that bigger picture develop. Okay, let's zoom in a bit on some of those tangible features we mentioned.
Sure.
How do things like, say, the A5 size or the different cover options actually play into the whole experience?
Well, the A5 size seems to hit a real sweet spot for many. It gives you enough room to write properly, but it's not too big or heavy to carry around if you want
Oh,
to.
portable, yeah.
Exactly. And the choice between soft and hard covers, often in that durable faux leather we see with Listallion, just caters to different needs. Hardcover, more protection if it's bouncing around in a bag. Soft cover might feel a bit cozier if you mostly journal at home. These physical aspects really shape how you interact with the journal and, with the practice itself.
And the lined pages, there was that specific mention of 7.5 millimeter line width. Is that level of detail really significant? Does it matter?
It actually can, yeah. For most people, that spacing is considered pretty much optimal for comfortable handwriting.
Okay.
It means your writing is clear, legible, doesn't feel too squished or too spaced out. It sounds small. But this kind of attention to detail in the design, it can remove those little friction points, making the act of writing itself just more pleasant, less of a chore.
It really shows how thoughtful design supports the practice, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of my grandmother. She was deeply faithful, kept prayer requests on little index cards stuffed in her Bible.
Oh, yeah.
They were always falling out, getting lost. Eventually, she started using a proper line journal with a section just for prayers for others.
Mm-hmm.
She said it brought her so much peace. Knowing exactly who she was praying for, being able to look back, see answers, it made her feel more, I don't know, connected and responsible in praying for people.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And it perfectly shows how a specific feature can meet a real need and make the practice more meaningful. The story we came across about Mary from San Antonio also paints a great picture of this journey, doesn't it?
It really does. Her starting point, wanting a more consistent prayer life but feeling disconnected, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Absolutely.
And finding that beautiful journal in the boutique, it seems like that was a catalyst for her.
And it's key to note, it wasn't instant magic, right?
No, definitely not.
Her story highlights that initial struggle, how she started really small, just one word some days. It's a good reminder that building this habit takes patience, takes grace.
Exactly. And then you see her gradually finding her rhythm, moving from single words to more detailed entries, gratitude lists, specific prayer requests. It just underlines the power of showing up consistently, helped by having that dedicated, appealing space.
Mm-hmm. And the details mentioned in her story, the soft faux leather cover, the premium paper, the 211 pages, the numbered pages.
Yeah, the Listallion features.
Right. They all clearly contributed to making it a tool she wanted to use. And the result, that deeper connection, more peace, more gratitude. It really speaks volumes about the potential here.
It really does.
And Mary's experience, it lines up perfectly with the best practices for consistent journaling that we've seen discussed. Things like, setting aside a specific time, using prompts if you feel stuck, reflecting on scripture by writing about it, keeping track of prayer requests, consciously noting things you're grateful for, and just being honest and personal in your entries.
And you can totally see how a well-made journal, maybe with that comfy line spacing and those organizational bits, directly helps with those best practices. It makes the doing of it easier, more inviting.
Exactly.
I found for myself, just having a set time, even just 5 or 10 minutes every morning with my coffee, and having the journal right there makes a huge difference. It's less about writing pages and pages,
Right.
and more about just that regular act of sitting down with it. And yeah, having some prompts in mind, even just mental ones, helps on days when you feel blank.
That's such a key point. Establishing the rhythm, creating the space for intentional reflection. The material we looked at also briefly mentions wider uses, like prayer journaling for families, even for kids, which is a really neat idea.
It is, isn't it? Thinking about families sharing a journal, documenting joys, struggles, prayers together. That could be a really powerful way to build shared faith.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of giving a prayer journal as a gift. It's like offering someone a tangible invitation to nurture their inner life.
Precisely. It's a gift that says, I support your spiritual growth.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what our exploration keeps coming back to is that commitment to consistent prayer and reflection is the goal.
Yeah.
And these thoughtfully designed tools, like the journals we've discussed, can be such valuable allies on that journey.
So wrapping up our deep dive here, We've seen how a dedicated prayer and devotion journal offers structure, encourages consistency, and really helps deepen your spiritual connection. It does this through intentional reflection, focusing on gratitude, and making prayer more focused. And we've really drilled down into how specific features, like those in Listalian journals, genuinely support and enhance this whole practice, making it more organized, more enjoyable, and ultimately more sustainable.
Exactly. It's about creating that positive feedback loop. The tool helps the discipline, and the discipline enriches your life.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Think beyond just the words you might put in a journal. Consider the simple act of intentionally pausing, reflecting. How might regularly engaging with your thoughts, your prayers, in this dedicated way subtly shift your perspective? How might it strengthen your inner resilience over time?
Yeah.
What unexpected insights, what threads in the story of your own spiritual life might just surface from the simple act of putting pen to paper in a space set aside just for that? It's a practice with, perhaps, surprising depth. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.